Today I'd like to show you this Marvin French Casemaster. I believe it was produced from 1992 to 2010. I happen to have a 2007 model available here. I'm going to show you how to fix it, how to change out this little fork connector so you can eliminate this and you don't have to worry about this breaking on you. We could upgrade it to a newer style handle. I'm going to show you all the hints and tips I can possibly think of. So let's get started. First, let's cover a few basics on how a French casement works. This one here is currently closed in the locked position, so in order to open it, we put it in the unlocked position. And by the way, if you forget which one is locked and unlocked, sometimes I recommend that you get like a little label maker. Make a little label maker that says unlocked, locked, just to help you out. So we open our window, crank it open. And then when you want to lock it, close the window. And that's how you operate it. I find sometimes, especially in a kid's room or someone who's not very familiar with the hardware, or even when the window is brand new, oftentimes this will happen. Now you can't move the handle because the handle only rotates 180 degrees. That's a simple fix. Obviously, open the window, flip this over 180 degrees, close the window. That helps. That's probably 50% of my service calls is just on how to operate this properly. Since there was a lot of design changes throughout the years with this window, if you have one of these that's broken in the locked position and you're fortunate enough to have one of these older handles here, sorry, that's the only picture I could find. These handles are old and I don't have anymore. You can simply remove the little cover plate. Obviously, if it's broken in the locked position, this will flop around, and you can remove the little plate, remove the two screws that are in there, and just use a large slotted screwdriver to put through the hole to turn this. Even if this is broken a little bit, the tab, sometimes you can get a big screwdriver in there enough just to get it unlocked. If you have one of these handles here, it's going to be a little bit more tricky because those ones, they're screwed from the back side. If you have that handle, one of the things you can do is sometimes break off this hardware cover and order a new one, which I'm not sure if they're still available. Or two is to break off or drill out this astracal by drilling 3 holes here, and I'll show you a spot here to get it unlocked. But unfortunately, you have to replace both sashes and order a new hardware cover, and it has to be prepped for the new location because the newer style sashes have a smaller astracal and the position of this is off a little bit. But I want to show you how I get them unlocked. Before I show you how to open this window when it's stuck in the locked position, I need to kind of explain how the hardware works and what we're going to do. So the hardware works by turning this fork connector. Again, what you have may be a little different. When you turn this fork connector like this, it moves this hardware down here and it moves this hardware here. And so what we're going to do is with this stuck in the locked position, I'm going to show you how to remove this weather stripping, and we're going to get a putty knife in here to try to scoot this over to get it unlocked without damaging your frame so you can reuse all of your existing sashes without having to replace them. Due to the sophisticated hardware that's on this window, installation practices of being plumb, level, and square are key. If you got a window that has been over foamed, over shimmed, or it's not installed square, this can be a little difficult for you. So they really need to be installed square. So hopefully you got enough room here at the bottom of the window. If this sash is touching down here at the bottom, we may have to do what I'm about to show you on the top, but let me show you from the bottom because that's where I have the most success. First, we remove this weather stripping here. You can either cut it off with a utility knife and you can order replacement, or if you need to reuse it, just take one of these sharpened, stiffened putty knives, and it's fit in there in a kerf, and so you're just going to have to well, I managed to get that out without damaging it, so that's good. I can reuse it. And again, if you have to cut off a utility knife, go ahead and you can order replacement. You can still get this. Do be mindful when you do that you can scratch your clad, so be very mindful and protect it the best you can. First, I'm going to try using a plastic putty knife because they're pretty flexible. Also, you can do less damage to your window. If you don't, a thin one would work fine. Okay, hopefully you can see this okay. I'm putting this above this plate. Again, the strike plate you have may look a little different. So I'm gonna get it on there just like that. We're gonna take a hammer and we're gonna try to drive that over to unlock it. Well, there you have it. Now the window is unlocked and we can now open it. So now that we got our window open, now you can replace any broken components. I believe this fork connector is no longer available. I just happen to have a few on my truck that have probably been on there for over 20 years or so. You can remove this and remove the old handle and use this newer style handle. So it comes in a little kit, as you can see here in the parts manual. It comes with a new handle, this plate, and a little gasket and some screws. This sticks out further than your previous handle, and this will actually go into the hole that this is in for it to lock and unlock. So let's go ahead and remove that. Super easy to do, just 2 screws. Now you're going to reuse the screws you just took out and put this plate on and this little gasket here. We'll go ahead and change that out. And now this handle fits in there like that, and then it turns the hardware. And you can go ahead and install this handle. But before you do, we need to check adjustment and alignment. So one of the things I do before I put this handle on is I like to make sure that the window is adjusted. And the French Casemaster was the only window at the time that I'm aware of that came with adjustable hinges. So before we put this on, let's check the adjustment of this window. So an easy way to check the adjustment is by looking at the reveal, and the reveal is the gap here along the top, sides, and bottom. I'm not sure if you can see this here. See how this sash here and this one here, how they line up? I don't know if you can tell, but this sash is actually up a little higher. We want these two to be on the same plane. So we need to take this sash and we need to adjust it down like that. And we do that by adjusting the hinges. So to adjust this one, we'll start at the bottom. We can use one of these little adjustment wrenches. You can get these through Marvin, or if you don't have something like this, if you have a Dremel, some Dremels used to have a little wrench, and I think my Dremel wrench actually was the same size. I think this may be a 3/8. So this end of the wrench will fit under here like this. And if you can see, this is on a cam, and this hinge is actually moving the bottom like this or like this, and the same thing happens with the top. So since this sash was up like this, we want it to go down. So if we move it like this, that's moving this arm that way, which will bring it down that way. If you want to see what it looks like underneath, this is just a little snap ring. And see there's a flat side on both sides like that. That's what we're moving here. So you can move it this way, or you can move it that way. And then to pop this back on, just get it on there like that. Okay, we want the top of the sash to go down. So we'll put this little wrench in there. Okay, it was all the way this way, so we're gonna move it that way. As you can see, it moves that over. So hopefully I explained well on how to adjust the sashes in the frame by adjusting the hinges, because you want to make sure both of these sashes are square in your frame. Hopefully I explained that well enough. There's some other adjustments that can be made. Again, the hardware you may have on your window may look a little different than this. These are also adjustable. And simply by taking the same wrench, the other end of this wrench, on these are also on a cam, so you can actually move this way or that way. And what that's going to do, that's going to allow the window to either lock tighter against the weather stripping or loose. Usually if the weather stripping is pretty robust, so usually you can make them loose so it locks a little easier. And simply by doing it on all of them are adjustable from what I remember. If you see here, this one actually has a little dot on it to kind of give you an idea of where the position is, but hopefully you can see that. So that turns. So you can put that on there and you can turn that. If you turn it clockwise on this one, that'll bring it in further to make it easier to lock. When you move the handle up and down, that moves this up and down, and that locks it to this little piece here. Again, what you have may look a lot different than this. If you want to make this also lock a little easier, there have been times where I'll actually take a grinder and I'll grind more of a ramp on this to allow this part to slide in here a little easier like that. So don't be afraid to take a grinder and grind that down. Or sometimes if the alignment of this, see if this bottom of that is actually hitting here. I've actually removed this, either move this up or down, or I'll take a file or a grinder and grind this down and just give it a little ramp just to make that handle a little easier to lock. So before you put your handle on, it's important to make sure that this hole lines up with the hole that's in the sash. I put my flashlight in there, hopefully you can see that. If this hole doesn't, these holes here don't line up with those holes there, don't be afraid to take a round file and file these out to make them bigger, or file it to move the hole over to whatever side you need to line up with the sash. Or if you got one of those rotary bits, you can put on your drill, you can drill it over. These holes really have to be lined up with the sash for this to operate properly. That looks pretty good, so we'll go ahead and put this handle on. But before I do, I also want to show you how to remove this cover to install the back plate if you don't have one, if you got a window that's really old. So let's do that. If you ever have to remove this cover, depending on what year your window was manufactured, some of these were screwed down. And what you may have to do is, if there's any screws in here, you're going to have to find them. You can use a magnet and just move a magnet along the piece of the wood and see wherever the magnet sticks, you know there's a screw there, and you can dig out any putty that's in there. I believe we used a small square head screw. It's been a long time since I've done one that was screwed in. And oftentimes where this astracal is, there would be a screw here into a block. So remove all those screws first. Fortunately for me, there's no screws on this one. This one is just held on there with a vinyl connecting barb, where we use a kerf and a piece of vinyl connecting barb. You just take a sharpened putty knife, you can put that in between the frame and the cover, and you can remove it that way. And that way, if you don't have this plate, which this handle screws onto, this is how and where you would put it on. And if you do have to install this, there's two little tabs here. You can see it fits in a kerf here, so you don't have to worry about misplacing it one way or the other. You just have to make sure that when you close this window, that these two line up with that. And as you can see here, it's got a vinyl connecting barb, and that is the little kerf that it goes into. Now when you put your handle on, it only will rotate 180 degrees. You can't have it go 360, so don't accidentally put it in upside down where the hardware doesn't work. So make sure it's right side up, put it on there like that, and then we'll put the screws in behind it. There you go, just like that. And that also being screwed with the handle makes this hardware cover so it doesn't come off. Now let's talk about something I hope you never have to do, but you may have to. And that's taking out this hardware and putting it back in a new sash, or retiming this hardware. There's a few timing spots on this hardware. Of course, what you have may look a little different, but still the premise is the same. These little nubs here are adjustable, so you can adjust what we call the timing, so they're both in the same position. Because this hardware goes around corners, we have to make sure that the hardwares line up. So let me take this off to show you how to make sure everything is in time. So obviously that slides down and this hardware can come out. Hopefully you can see these little teeth here. That hooks onto these little teeth here. And each one of these is a timing mark. So you can actually move this hardware down independent of this. So if you need to retime that hardware, you can move and get that to line up. So hopefully I could show you an exaggerated off timing. So see where this one's all the way up and this one's all the way up? Well, when you disconnect this bar from there, you could actually move this all the way down to any spot and get those two to line up. And now you can see this one's all the way up and that one's now midway. So obviously we want all these to be in the same spot. So one way to know if your hardware is out of time is when you move this handle. See, I did it there. Is when you go to move it, say if it doesn't go flat, let me over exaggerate the timing that is off. So I'm gonna move the hardware off a little bit. Okay, I really made that hardware out of time just to over exaggerate what's going on here. So if I move the handle, see, now I can't go any further, and I'm not sure. See why I still got the screws that the hardware's binding. Obviously we're out of time. So we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna disconnect that, make sure this is all the way over like that. Check the operation. It goes all the way one way and the other way. Make sure the hardware's up. Wiggle this a little bit. Now we'll try it again. Perfect, just like that. So we'll go ahead and put the screws in. I hope that kind of explains how the timing of this works. We're making sure this is up like that, so this doesn't come detached. Now another way to check to see, also to make sure everything is in time, obviously we just found out that this is in time. So say if you have this one shut, and then you close this one, and it only goes that far, that means that there's something out of alignment on this one. That's where I was telling you earlier where you could maybe file a little bit of this off or move this up or down, or even adjust the little nubs that are on this up or down. So the first thing I'll do when I go to any casement, French casement, is I always open this one first, go to this one, check to make sure it's okay. If it's okay, I know it's in this one. If it's not okay, then I know it's this sash that I got to start with first, and one would be to check the timing. Again, which is extremely rare that these would be out of time from the factory. Now, if you ever have to remove one of these sashes for painting, staining, or just if you have to replace it because it's broken, it's very easy to do. Obviously, we'll have to unlock the window, crank it open. And right this little spot right here, if you can't see it, there's a little arrow right here. Once you get to that arrow, you press down on this, move that out of the way like that. Then we'll go ahead and remove this. This just slides out like that. If you can't do it with your thumb, you can use a flat bar to get on there to move it back. Move that, crank this out of the way. Now from this side, just take a flat bar or screwdriver, pop that off like that. Do the same thing for the top. Now you can slide it out this way and take it out just like that. When you reinstall the sash, you want to make sure that this little hook goes behind here like this. We're reinstalling the sash. Okay, make sure that little hook is there. It's in there like that. Same thing down here. Slide that over, and we'll go ahead and pop that arm back on, the top and bottom. So go ahead and reattach this arm. If you ever get one of these arms that pops out all the time, you can bend this arm back up so there's constant pressure up to it. Snap it in there like that, and you're good to go. Well, there you go. That's about everything I can possibly think of to show you on this Marvin French Casemaster. And if you found this video informative, please consider hitting the subscribe button below. Thank you for watching and have a great day.